Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. The last few days I've been kind of on a theme on this channel, and that is trying to get people to wake up, harden themselves, get ready, because I think a fight is coming. And I think that we need to be ready for that, folks. I was talking about that today over on my Patreon channel, of how it's to the point that I honestly don't see any other way that we are going to avoid some type of conflict, whether it's a global war, civil war, guerrilla warfare tactics spread across the country. There's just so many things going on. It's a big old pot of, on a pressure cooker, and it's about ready to explode if you just take and look at all the stuff that's going on, and it's in a lot of different areas. I wanted to focus today kind of on the domestic side of it. Did you know in the last 24 to 36 hours, there's been 5 somewhat major shootings in the news? One of them was today. It was actually a police-involved shooting out in Dodge City, Kansas. It was a high-speed pursuit that ended up with 3 police officers shot and the suspect dead. Another school shooting today in Des Moines, Iowa, and of course the last couple of days over in California and Georgia and Louisiana, some major shootings in the news. Of course, I'm not at any point advocating any type of gun control. What I'm saying that this is just a sign of the society just starting to unravel. We're seeing the signs of that. I was speaking to a friend today on this subject, and again, and I've said this on this channel just in the last couple of days, the types of things that we're seeing happen right now in our country are extremely and eerily similar to the things that we've watched happen over the last few decades in other countries as they start to fall apart. And many times we find out that our own government, secret agencies are involved in trying to kind of instigate these types of things, whether it's, using people that have mental illnesses, people that just have a grudge against society and the government, and they're kind of, supporting them in some way. And I'm not exactly saying that's proven to be happening right now, but I'd say that there's probably some of that going on. And I suspect some of you think that also. We have to be prepared for this kind of stuff because it's happening, and whether you like it or not, whether you want to believe it or not, these events are in fact happening. The activity of Antifa, BLM, and other extreme groups like that are happening more and more often. And I think that we're going to eventually see this kind of spill over into, pockets throughout the country. And they could end up finding themselves at your doorstep. And that's one of the reasons why we have to be prepared. When you see the things that are happening on a global stage, you see the tensions here in the country, people that are dealing with the psychological repercussions of being forced to lock down and live in fear for the last few years. The crumbling dollar, the increase of inflation's making things more difficult to have, making life just harder and harder to live. We're seeing the housing market begin to collapse, which is going to just throw fuel on this fire as people are starting to have more difficulty finding a place to live. These things sound pretty doomsday, I get it, but it is in fact happening, and we can't stick our head in the sand just because we don't like the sound of it or because it's a little too scary. They are in fact happening, and we must prepare for them. Things with Antifa, of course, we're familiar with what's happened down in Atlanta, Georgia, but it's not just there. In recent weeks and months, we've watched little by little as Antifa pops up at a lot of abortion-type rallies, and they are fully armed. And while many people want to laugh at them because sometimes they're certainly out of shape or maybe they're not holding their weapon properly, there is certain ample evidence that Antifa has most likely over the past couple of years, at least some of them, has been taking some pretty professional training. In fact, there's been rumors of training camps in certain places across the country where Antifa has been training. And here's some pictures here of just yesterday in Wisconsin, where they were doing a pro-abortion rally. And while we can laugh at them and say that they don't have the kind of training that maybe some of the people on the right, all these veterans and stuff, you don't have to be in shape and you don't have to have a high-level training to shoot a deadly weapon. In fact, you can die from an overweight person that has no clue how to handle that weapon just as quickly as you can from a bullet being shot from someone with a trained hand. So don't think that just because these people may not know quite what they're doing is something to not fear. And in the fact is that some of these people probably do know what they're doing. And like I said, a firearm being fired by an untrained hand is just as deadly as someone from a trained hand, and potentially more deadly. BLM has been doing the same thing in the last several days. There's been protests in Virginia where they were armed. Here's some footage here. They were armed and they were protesting for reparations. We've seen this kind of stuff pop up here and there. News media doesn't really like to cover it much. And then there's, of course, up in Portland, Oregon. If you remember back a couple of years ago, the whole Chad experiment, where they were going to be their own little nation. They're still doing armed patrol guards out there, and it seems to be pretty easy, at least according to the news reports, to get weapons up there. You can get them pretty easily, and that's actually true on any big city streets if you know where to look. These photographs and videos that I've shown you, they're all recent. These are not things that I found from, a couple of years ago. I did a little research on them and to do my best to confirm that these are very recent photographs. There were a few months ago down in Texas, there were these drag queen shows that many of you all know about, and they were being protected again by armed Antifa people. We are seeing this stuff more and more, and in no way am I saying that it's a bad thing that these people are armed. I think that everyone should has the right. It's a God-given right to protect and defend themselves. My point is that if these people are starting to do this, why aren't we a little bit more proactive, and why aren't we taking things more serious? The possibility of any of these types of areas to kind of spill over into the shot heard around the world and to get things kicked off are becoming more and more likely just from the simple mathematical probability of the increase of these activities. We have to continue to be prepared and to get ourselves in the mental and the physical mindset that this kind of activity is eventually going to be the cause, possibly, of some type of, actual combat, some type of actual violence in the streets. We've seen it over the last few years, and we're seeing this kind of violence uptick. Folks, this is serious. I think that the Antifa, the kind of the brown shirts that we've all heard about in history, I think that's gonna be a more prominent thing this year. And like I said, the very real possibility, and there's certainly been lots of evidence, nothing of course proving, but certainly lots of evidence that government agencies are funding these. And we know for a fact that certain people like George Soros is funding these groups. This is being done to cause, fractures in our society. This isn't just because there's a bunch of, losers in their mom's basement that are just fed up. There's a purpose here, folks, and we have to realize that and take notice and get ourselves ready. I would strongly advocate, if you're able to keep yourself armed wherever you go. If you live in an area that prevents you or prohibits you from legally protecting yourself, maybe you shouldn't live there. I would advocate you getting used to using it, getting used to carrying it, getting comfortable with it, and then developing procedures for your home and your family while you're out doing your shopping and everything of what you would do if you find yourself in a shooter situation. How would you get to safety, and what are the plans for you and your family to get out of that situation and get home? Because in the end, the most important thing is to get home every night, to get home safe, and then to protect your home. you need to be planning for this kind of stuff. If you have small groups, mags, crew, tribes, this needs to be something on your topic list. This is something that you shouldn't just be talking about. This is something you should be doing. The days for talking about preparing are over, folks. It's the time right now to be doing, to be planning, to be actively participating in getting yourself ready and getting your family ready and getting your communities ready, because this kind of violence is most likely just going to continue. And because of that continuance and just the sheer numbers of this kind of stuff happening, the odds are it's going to find its way to some of you. So folks, keep getting yourself ready, keep getting your house in order, and being ready for this and being honest with yourself that, know your limitations, but also know what you can learn and train and practice and develop actual real plans of how to get out of a situation like this and how to protect yourself if you find yourself in this situation. Get your house in order, folks. Prepare mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.